So what I've done here is I've just quickly added all of the details in my SFP to save time. So remember assets, starting with non-current assets, fixed assets, and then fixed deposits. Then we'll have our current assets starting with inventories, then trade and other receivables and cash equivalents. Moving on to our shareholders' equity, we'll have ordinary share capital and retained income. And then we'll have our non-current liabilities, if there is anything, so non-current liabilities. And then we will have our current liabilities, starting with our trade and other payables, current portion of loan, if we do have a loan, and then shareholders for dividends, SARS, income tax. Okay, remember that you can also include your shareholders for dividends and your SARS income tax in your trade and other payables. It doesn't have to be shown separately. Please use your answer book as a guideline. Okay, right. So we have already calculated in the previous section our ordinary share capital as well as our retained income. I've seen it way too many times that people then go to the SFP and write random amounts in there. No, whatever you ended on in your note, so on the last day, that now goes to your SFP. So it's 500,000 for your ordinary share capital, 500,000. Then for your retained income, you ended on 19,000. So 19,000 goes there. So in total, for your shareholders' equity, you have 519,000. And there we go. See, no new calculations, nice and easy method math there. Just to show that you know that it has to be carried over. Right. Then, next up, oh, let me just quickly, what's going on? Yeah, continue. Okay, there we go. It's the video that I was referring to now. Okay. Then we have now already used all of our balances on the first day of the current financial year. We now know that we have already paid SARS, so we don't have that credit balance anymore. And on the 14th of March, we also paid our shareholders the dividend that was due to them. So we've also used the opening balances for our ordinary share capital as well as retained income in our notes. So we are done with that information. Then, moving on, we have also now determined that we have a SARS income tax receivable, so a refund that's due to us. And we got to that answer by taking all of the SARS income tax payments for provisional tax, and then we set that off against our income tax for the year. And we then saw that SARS now owes us a refund of 3,850 Rand. And that is seen under my current assets under trade and other receivables. We don't have any other information, so we can't include anything else in our SFP. That's it. Right. If they wanted us to add more things, such as your debtors, then they should have given us the balances to be able to include that. Right, so that was our SARS. Then moving on, we also had payments to our shareholders for dividends. However, we haven't paid all of our dividends. So we have made a commitment by declaring our dividend. However, payment must still be made. Therefore, your final dividend will always be, unless stated otherwise, will always be your final dividend that you declared. That will always be your liability. So your 36,000 Rand will go to your SFP, shareholders for dividends, 36,000 Rand. Okay, so we don't have any other information here. We don't know what we started with for our cash and cash equivalents. We don't know if we had any fixed assets. We're going to assume that we didn't. So we're just going to say here that non-current assets, because they didn't give us information on that. However, they have been referring to payments made, and businesses cannot start trading without a bank account. That is one of the requirements when registering a company. So we know that we do have cash and cash equivalents. So in order to now complete our SFP, we're just going to balance our SFP. We're going to say that we have all of the amounts for the shareholders' equity and liabilities, because they didn't say anything about long-term loans, so we don't have non-current liabilities. So we're going to say that we had 519,000 for our equity. Then for our liabilities, we only had that shareholders for dividends. So that's 555,000 Rand. Then the only thing that we have under assets, we don't have any non-current assets, so that's the 0. But we do have trade and other receivables. So we're going to subtract that to find the difference. And this over here is the balancing figure. That's my cash and cash equivalents. Okay, so just finding the balancing figure to make it balance. And that is it for a quick and easy SFP.